Hello, vinyl community, Marker again from Sound Matters, talking all things vinyl as always. I'd like to revisit record subscription services today, as it's been a little while since I covered it. There's been 2 years ago on the channel that I covered a list of the best record subscription services. Also keep a list over at the website that I update regularly so that people can have that all in one place. And it's safe to say that the landscape over the last couple of years of these services has changed significantly. It's been very difficult trading circumstances for businesses across the board, but I think particularly when it comes to a luxury item like vinyl, it's difficult to get people to part with their money increasingly. And there's been a big flood of these services perhaps as well, you know, throughout the events of the last few years, with a lot of people being at home more, working from home more, all that kind of side of things has come into it. And perhaps there's a degree of saturation at some point. So what makes the services that have weathered the storm different? What makes them stand out? And which record subscription services in 2024 could be right to help you grow your collection? Let's take a look. First on my list has to be VMP, because it's the main service I've been using to grow my collection and expand my musical horizons over the last few years. And I've definitely discovered records in genres that I never would have considered picking up if I had just walked into a record store and been left to my own devices, where I tend to just levitate to my comfort zones musically and look for the same kind of things that I've always listened to. Genre-wise, I've really discovered more of a love for jazz, soul and funk, and all that kind of side of things, musical styles beyond my musical home, if you like, of rock music from the 60s, 70s, and also to a certain degree the 90s as well. So this is really expanding my horizon into stuff that I would never have picked up, and the quality has been really, really good. I get the VMP Classics and I also get the VMP Essentials, but you can also subscribe to a rock specific subscription and also a country or also a hip hop one as well. I've been really impressed with the quality of the records. You know, for example, this recent reissue of the Fleetwood Mac, a 1975 classic. This was absolutely brilliant. It was cut by Ryan Smith at Sterling Sound from Analog Tapes, and it's a really nice high quality reissue of that album. I've done a review of that reissue and you can check that out in the top corner here. I also did a classic albums feature on that album, which includes this VMP release. You can also check that out in the top corner right now. It's an absolutely superb release. It just feels higher quality than your standard reissue. Okay, comes on coloured vinyl. Not everybody wants coloured vinyl, but it's a nice product. But also the board that it's pressed, that it's printed on, is much thicker, much higher quality than you get from most other reissues. And it just, the whole feel of the release and the fact that it's handled by a really good quality mastering engineer, or a very, well respected mastering engineer, I should say, just always seems to levitate their releases just that little bit above, of course, what you can get from just ordering a standard reissue on Amazon, or just picking up any other sort of bog standard reissue that you might find in any other record store. So the quality for me has really stood out as being a cut above some of the rest. The classics range, I mean, I've discovered so many records recently, just in recent times. The Nina Simone release, of course, the David Porter release was great as well. What else did we have? We had Thelonious Monk was absolutely brilliant. Black Nasty. So many of these records have become, because they just sound so great as well, have become references when I'm testing audio gear here for the channel, and you have seen me using some of those in those reviews. But I'll stop there. I think just I have had a really good experience with VMP. I've got plenty of other videos on this channel you can check out if you want to learn more, including my video that I did of 2 years into VMP, what my experience was and what my thoughts were 2 years in. That's a good little summary video if you want a little overview of this service. The next one on my list is another service I've reviewed on the channel and also over at the website, called Vinyl Moon, and it's a completely different proposition to what VMP is. So if you're looking for big household names reissued, really nice high quality ones, you're not going to find that here. You're going to find completely the opposite. This is emerging artists from all around the world, compiled on what's best described as a kind of mixtape on vinyl, and then, curated and pressed onto a record with really original and unique artwork. So if you love discovering emerging artists from all around the world, relative unknown musicians, and you also love the art side of things, and you love the physicality of the medium like vinyl, you love the arts, then this could be a service you'd really enjoy. I particularly enjoyed the augmented reality album cover that they released a little while back, probably about a year or so ago when I reviewed it on this channel. I thought that was a really neat way of tying in the digital world and the analog world, and really showcasing what can be done creatively with vinyl record packaging. If you didn't see that review, check it out in the top corner of this video, and I'll also put a link in the description of the video so you can check it out in your own time. It really showcases, I think, the best of what Vinyl Moon is all about. Here's an interesting one that's popped up in the last couple of years. It's called Blackbox Record Club, and it's a curated record service. So unlike something like VMP, where you've got to remain a little bit more open-minded, you will get really high quality releases, but you have to be pretty open-minded about what might be coming your way. You can actually get records sent to you that is based on your personal taste. And the way that they do this is that you connect your Spotify account, but also your Discogs account, and you fill out a personal taste profile, giving them your top 10 artists, and they will then send you records each month based on those profiles and based on your musical taste. So if you don't want to leave it down to chance so much and you want more of what you love, this is an interesting modern way of doing that, of course, particularly since most people are using streaming services in one way or another. Most people out there are using streaming as their main way of listening to music, but of course people increasingly want to regain an element of that experience with a physical record as well, as we know on this channel, because we talk about it all the time. So this is a really interesting way of doing it, and I think it's a really nice way of bringing more young listeners into the mix as well, so that this vinyl hobby can continue to survive, hopefully for many years to come. I think this is a really interesting proposition, so you should check it out in your own time. Links to all of these services will be in the description of this video. If you're looking for something on more of a human scale than the current rising AI-dominated world that we seem to be constantly surrounded by these days, then you could look at something like the Magnolia Records subscription for a bit of a breath of fresh air. In their words, it's curated by artists, not robots. So each month you get a record that's a member exclusive, and it's on limited edition pressing, and it comes with some personal notes by the artist curator themselves. So you're going to have to retain a bit of an open mind when it comes to the music you'll get, but you'll be sharing more of a one-to-one connection with a real person, sharing music on more of a human scale, which I think is a nice touch. Not curated by robots, not by bloggers, just by real artists sharing the music they love. If this appeals to you, head over to the Magnolia Record, or magnoliarecord.store rather, to check it out. There'll be a link in the description. You can skip a month, you can pause a month, you can cancel any time, and price-wise, what are we looking at here? It's monthly. If you go month by month, it's $30 per month. You can also reduce this by locking yourself in for either 3 months or 6 months, of course. Details, of course, in the description of this video. But it's another different take. And I think what we can take away from this whole thing is the fact that in order to survive, I think, as a record store these days, you've got to have an angle. You've got to have a point of differentiation. You can't just be churning out records that anyone could just go and pick up at their local record store, or worse, just order on Amazon. You've got to have something different. You've got to be offering something that's worth subscribing to a club for. If you like that sense of a human connection in your music subscription services like Magnolia, and you're based in the UK, then I'd recommend you check out Wax and Stamp. It's now actually the longest standing record subscription service in the UK, so they must be doing something right. I reviewed the service back in 2020 and was impressed by the service and also the records I received. If you're into more new and obscure artists, then it's definitely one to consider on your list. The records are all curated by the guys at Wax and Stamp, and also their guest contributors month by month. If you're interested in this kind of discovery, this sense of serendipity and discovering records on a human scale, then it's worth checking out. You can subscribe to the service starting at £30 per month. check it out. Link is in the description of this video. If you love your food just as much as you love your music, you should check out Turntable Kitchen. They've been going a couple of years now, and they have an interesting offering. So you get a 7-inch single, but also a digital mixtape and some premium ingredients for some original recipes. So combining a love and music, this is a really interesting service. As I say, you've got to have a point of differentiation if you want to survive in this game, I think. They've not stopped there though. They've also introduced a coffee and vinyl club, which you can see here, and also a general club called Sounds Delicious Vinyl, whereby you get an exclusive record each month, a limited edition full-length album with custom cover art, and also included is a digital download. So there's some interesting things happening at Turntable Kitchen, but I think that original offer of the food and music, and also the coffee side of things as well. If you're a real foodie and you love music, then you should check it out. It's an interesting service. If you're into Third Man Records, Jack White and everything that he gets behind in terms of the artists he endorses, then you could consider a subscription to something like the Vault at Third Man Records website. It is quite expensive though for a quarterly release at $75. That's quite pricey, but it comes with other perks that, if you're really into what Third Man Records is all about, could appeal to you. So these releases are premium, these Vault packages though. They come with more than just a record. There's extra bonus material which varies quite widely, from pins to posters, patches, photo books and the likes. And beyond the actual quarterly package, you also get exclusive media access. You get to shop the novelties on the store, which is a members only store. There is access to pre-sale, so things like concert tickets and everything you'll get early access to, and you get 10% off the site as well. So if you're a big fan of Third Man Records and everything that Jack White does, this could be an appealing package to you. But as I say, you have to be really into what Third Man Records do for this to appeal, and you have to be willing to cough up $75 per month. But it's an interesting approach, and of course Jack White's output is quite prolific. You can see all the exclusive releases here available on their store, so there's plenty to go at, way beyond just the White Stripes side of things. There's much more to dig at here. Of course, Third Man Records is about much more than just Jack White and the White Stripes, but there you have it. That's kind of the list of services that are still going. But let's take a look at some of these services that have had to stop trading and what might have caused some of those issues. So there was a service until very recently called Flying Vinyl in the UK, and they had a bit of an attempt to rebirth themselves. So they were originally a 7-inch box set service, and unfortunately back in 2001 they had to stop or cease that service. Many of the things that they talked about were trading conditions, the events of the last few years, which I will not go into, or any of the political elements of that side of things, but you can see that in this statement here. But also supply chain issues, cost of materials, cost of production, very, very difficult trading conditions for these kind of services and anyone trying to get vinyl releases through the bottleneck of production. So they decided to consolidate it down into a single 12-inch release each month. That was reissued, but as we look at their website today, I'll open it up on here, it essentially seems to have fallen by the wayside once again. So it's sad to see, but I can understand under the conditions. It must be so difficult to be dealing with all the supply chain issues we had in the last few years, and it's kind of sad to see these businesses, these small businesses at the end of the day, really going by the wayside because the trading conditions are so tricky. Here's another service that had to recently, unfortunately, stop trading. It's called Casa Vinyl, very much a house and dance music focused subscription service. And they say due to external pressures. So undoubtedly, this is due to the market, just the way it is, things being difficult to produce, and not having enough cash flow coming through the business. Perhaps people, tightening their belts because the economy's not so great. Who knows? Of course, they're not going to say that on the website, but it's sad to see so many of these businesses, as I say, struggling to make this work. The last one I'll mention, and I have reviewed this one over at the website, is Vinylbox, and it sadly seems to have closed its doors sometime after Christmas 2022. And although the service was perfectly fine, I think the reason this has happened is that it wasn't really offering anything that I couldn't just get from any online record store or from my local record store and walking in the door. You need to have a point of differentiation, and all of the services that I've mentioned that have stood the test of time are either offering something different in terms of the product, so really premium releases, or they're offering something different in terms of the community that they build around it and the way that they curate the records. One way or another, it's got to stand out and have something different to just buying online or walking into a record store. Otherwise, why would people bother? The far side of that, of course, is something more left field like Turntable Kitchen, where it combines more of a lifestyle element to the whole thing, because records really are a lifestyle thing. So it's got to feel premium, it's got to feel unique, or it's got to play into the lifestyle element. That's my take on it anyway. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. So that concludes today's list. Do you subscribe to any of these services? Let me know what you think of them down in the comments below. Is there a service I missed that you think I should check out? I'd love to hear from you. But if you're new to this channel, please do consider subscribing. You can also check out the links from my partners and sponsors where there's discount codes where you can benefit from discounts on gear to feed your vinyl hobby. Support me also on Patreon for exclusive content every single month. And thank you ever so much to all of you who have done so far. Can't wait to see you in the next video, but until then, guys, make sure you enjoy the music, keep spinning, and I'll see you then. Cheers.